Hello everyone, this video is for week 6, usability analysis. What is usability? Usability refers to the quality of a user's experience when interacting with products or systems, including websites, software, or applications. Usability is about effectiveness, efficiency, and the overall satisfaction of the user. It is important to realize that usability is not a single one-dimensional concept of a product, system, or user interface. Instead, it is a combination of facts, including first, ease of learning, how fast a user who has never used a product system before can accomplish basic tasks, efficiency of use, how fast an experienced user can accomplish tasks, ease of remembering, memorability. After first use, if a user can remember enough to use it effectively in future visits, error frequency or severity, how often users make errors while using the system, how serious the errors are, and how users recover from those errors, and finally, subjective satisfaction, if the user likes using the product or system. Why usability is important? Well, from the user's perspective, usability is important because it can make the difference between performing a task accurately and completely or not, and enjoying the process or being frustrated. From the developers and organizations' perspectives, at first, usability can help to reduce training, development, and support cost. For example, usability can help to identify and fix problems early, minimize needs for support personnel, help desk, minimize fix, maintenance, and upgrades. Also, it can enhance organizations' reputation by providing better products or systems. It can result in large number of hits and return visit rates. Usability issues occurs not only in software or application design, but also largely in web page development. This slide lists some common usability problems in web design. For example, to be usable, a site needs to include clear navigational facilities so that users can usually understand which links they will need to follow for a specific task. But unfortunately, many web design has usability issues related to navigation. Some navigational controls could be not clear to new users, or not clear because they rely on icons without explanatory text, or they are misleading because the title are poorly chosen, or they have too many tabs, so users cannot find the choice they want. Usability issues can also include poor layout and readability issues such as no sufficient white space, small clickable areas, too small font size, use of large graphics, repeating background images or textual, abuse of tables, dead links, and so on. And also lacking user engagement, lacking contact information, or too much registration requirement could piss off your users, and nobody will download a plugin or enjoy pop-up just to view your site, no matter how wonderful you think your site is. The key to developing highly usable site is to improve user-centered design. The user-centered design facilitates dialogue between the customer and the designer. User-centered design requires designer to have a clear understanding of user and task requirements, incorporate user feedback to define requirements and design, and have early and active involvement of the user to evaluate the design of the product or system. So those are some questions a user-centered design approach should ask. For example, who are the user of the product or system, and what are the user's goal, and what task do they need to perform? What functions will the user require to achieve their goals? What information might the user need to complete each task? Does the user have experience with a similar product system applications? How do the user think the product application should work? How would they expect to navigate the product applications? How should the design of the product application support the user's cognitive process, such as perceptions, expectations, emotion, capacity to remember key information, and so on. While there are many variations of user-centered design methods, most are structured around three main types of activities: user research, get to know and understand the users; product design, build a product, applying usability principles; and design evaluations, test design by observing users in a real-world setting. This figure shows a step-by-step usability guidance. If you open this link, you can choose a topic to learn more about how to complete each step. This table presents different user-centered design methods and in which stage they can be used. Since topics covered in this class is the usability analysis, we will focus on methods that are mainly used in user research and test and refine, such as heuristic evaluation and individual interviews, surveys, usability testing. This slide lists the classical flow of usability analysis. The first step is to develop a test plan. The more target your objective is, the better the outcome. For example, if you are redesigning an e-commerce website, you can test the ease of use and the overall satisfaction of the redesigned picture flow, while the overall test objective can be abstract. Designing a series of 5 to 10 user tasks to be carried out will help you evaluate interface interactions. In the example of the e-commercial site redesign, you can assign tasks that allow you to observe how users navigate the site, find specific items, add items to charts, enter credit card details, enter address information, and so on. Step 2 is to find and select participants. In addition to goal setting, your test plan also need to outline how and when to recruit test participants. Budget your usability test accordingly, because in most cases, you will need to pay test participants in some way. It is the most effective to create those who attributes match your target users. When doing moderated test, it is also helpful to draft up a script for the moderations, especially when yourself are not in moderations. The script will outline how to introduce the protocol to test participants, the task to be complete, and how to ask follow-up questions at the end of the task. And the third step is to choose a test method. You can choose heuristic evaluation or other usability inspection methods, which will be introduced in the following slide. And then you could conduct a section, debrief with participants and observes and analyze data and observations, and finally create findings and recommendations. Heuristic evaluation. Um, this is a usability evaluation method in which one or more reviewers, in most cases experts, compare a software system or product to a list of design principles, commonly referred to as heuristics, and identify where the product does not follow those principles. Heuristics here are collections of rules and guidance that aim to help design good user interface. Traditionally, they could be quite large collections, like those two. First one, Bronze in 1988, has 302 rows, and Simmons in 1986 has even more, 944 rows. But nowadays, we use much lighter versions, such as Nielsen's and Schneidman's. A result of heuristic evaluation is a list of weaknesses and errors. Each weakness, each errors must be connected to a specific heuristic rule. Heuristics can be applied to either finished products or prototypes, as long as it has not been published or launched. Evaluating a prototype has several benefits. If error can be found at early stage, modification is relatively easy. Both money and time can be saved. Heuristic evaluation should be run in multiple sessions, especially when reviewers find errors and after errors are corrected by developers. Although many groups have developed heuristics, one of the best known sources is the set developed by Nielsen in 1994. This set of heuristics focus on the usability problems in a user interface design. The procedure is first to hire a small set of experts, 3 to 5, and then let them independently check the product, check the system based on the usability principles, based on the heuristics. No discussions should be conducted during the evaluation process. And after all evaluators have finished, they should provide a summary based on their discussion. According to Nielsen, a single evaluator is able to find around 35% of the usability issues. Amount of problems found increase rapidly when 5 evaluators are used instead of one. But if you want to use 3, that also works because a single one is assumed to find around 35% of usability problems. So if you have 3, you can it's highly likely you can find 100% the usability issues your product has. There are 10 rules in Nielsen's heuristic evaluation. Rule 1 is called visibility of system status. Users should always be informed of system operations with easy to understand and highly visible status displayed on the screen within a reasonable amount of time. Uh, Here are some questions you can ask yourself as a designer or evaluator to check if design meets requirements or violate rule 1. Like, is the user aware of their current position within the user journey? Is the user notified about changes in their user journey? Is the user aware of facts that can have a significant impact on their experience? I have attached a video to further illustrate each rule, so you can open link from here. This is for rule 1. Visibility of system status. I am not going to play it here. So those are some examples on good practice for rule 1. Like forms should be able to immediately inform the user of misfilled fields. Error message should vanish from screen after error has been corrected. If a task takes a long time, a task progress indicator should be used to inform the user. Here are some examples I found online to elaborate rule 1. So this is from Gmail. When you log to Gmail, it shows you what's happening in the background and the progress. This one, when you upload something, the progress should be clearly shown unless you know what happens in the background. Usually you don't know. So this one shows you how many percentage of files have already been uploaded. This one is from Google Flight. When you check flight detail on Google, it shows you the status. So this one is on time, this one is delayed, using different colors, and you can also check the current location of each flight. Rule 2 is called match between system and the real world. Designers should use the language and the concepts users would find in the real world based on who their target users are. Presenting information in logic order and piggybacking on users' expectations derived from their real-world experience will reduce cognitive workload and make systems easier to use. So you can check the video here. Match system and the real world. Here are some examples. This is from iBooks. iBooks application use the appearance of bookshelf, what you can see in real world. This one actually has a cartoon effect, but it cannot be shown here. So it's the required credit card details are matched with a real credit card. Rule 3 is called user control and freedom. So offer users a digital space while backward steps are possible, including undo and redo previous actions. So those are some questions you can ask yourself as an evaluator or designer to check if the design meets requirements or violates Rule 3. Like, is the user able to exit all states such as pop-ups and multimedia? Is the exit state consistent and clear? Is the user able to use the code sections of the website without signing up? Does the user have control over their personal information, and so on? So those are some good practice. Like, if possible, a multi-level undo redo should be implemented. If an operation takes more than 10 seconds, the user should be able to cancel it. Okay, this one's still from Gmail. If you attach a large file in Gmail by mistake, you can cancel it before it's fully uploaded. This one is from WordPress. If you do a simple mistake, you can always undo and recover from it. And if you want to go deeper, you can check the revision history, and you can restore to a previous state. Okay, again, another example from Gmail. When you delete a email in Gmail, you see a notifications message displayed across the top of the screen, giving you the options to undo the action and restore the email thread. So this one, when you accidentally click on something, click the download button, they shouldn't have to wait for the download to complete before they can exist out of the process. So you can cancel this download before this download is complete. Rule 4 is called consistency and standard. Interface designers should ensure that both the graphic element and terminology are maintained across similar platforms. For example, an icon that represents one category or concept should not represent a different concept when used on a different screen. This is a video here. Here are some questions you can ask yourself. Is there a consistent design standard for all call to action on the website? Is there a consistent design standard for font control, for headings, and so on? So there are some good practice. Layout of user interface components should not change, especially shortcuts like keyboard combinations should remain the same, and style guides should be produced and used. So this is an example from eBay. You will always find sign-in, profile detail, and shopping chart information at the top right corner, no matter which page you are checking now. And Microsoft Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, they all share the same style toolbar with the same primary menu options like home, insert, page layout. Rule 5 is called error prevention. So wherever possible, you should design systems, design products so that potential errors are kept to a minimum. Users do not like being called upon to detect and fix problems, which may on occasion be beyond their level of expertise. Eliminating or flagging actions that may result in errors are two possible means of achieving error preventions. So again, those are some questions you can ask yourself. Are there helpful constraints that prevent a user from making mistake? Is a user guide with suggestions to prevent incorrect actions? Is a user presented with forgiving formatting for information? Okay, so there are several examples here. Again, this one is from Gmail. When you try to send an attachment through Gmail and forget to attach that file, Gmail will smartly detect that you haven't attached that file and warn you before you send the mail. This is from Google. It can correct your spelling. So when you choose password, tips are provided to prevent errors, and password strength is calculated and displayed as your type. Rule 6 is called recognition rather than recall. You can check the video here to see examples of recognition and recall. Basically, recognition refers to our ability to recognize an event or piece of information as being familiar, while recall designates the retrieval of related details from memory. Minimize cognitive load by maintaining task-relevant information within the display while users explore the interface is what Rule 6 means. Human attention is limited and we are only capable of maintaining around 5 items in our short-term memory at a time. Due to the limitation of short-term memory, designers should ensure users can simply use recognition instead of recall information. Recognizing something is always easier than recall because recognition involves perceiving cues that help us reach into our memory and allowing relevant information to surface. For example, we often find the format of multiple choice question easier than short answer questions on a test because it only requires us to recognize the answer rather than recall it from our memory. So those are some questions you can ask yourself when you evaluate if a certain design product system meets requirements or violates Rule 6, like is the user presented with a list of recently viewed products or pages? Is the user presented with customized content based on previous actions? Is the user presented with navigational items that reduce cognitive loads and adds recall? So those are some good practice for Rule 6. If possible, use computer's memory capacity instead of users. When an input of certain format is expected, show the correct format to the user. So those are from Amazon. This is from eBay. When you return to an e-commercial site, the personalized homepage includes a list of recently viewed items, suggestions by your browsing history, and recommendations through your purchase history. And when you Google something, it gives you list suggestions as you type in based on your previous searches and related most search. It also lists your matching bookmarks as well. Rule 7 is called flexibility and efficiency of use. Basically, it means users should be able to customize or tailor the interface to suit their needs so that frequent actions can be achieved through more convenient means. You can check the video here. UX flexibilities and efficiency. Here are some examples. This one is from Reddit. Reddit was recently redesigned, but it gives users the options to visit old Reddit, which is more efficient for some users. Some users may be more familiar with old design, so the site still gives that option. And this is another example from Google search. If you are a new user, you can use the default Google image search. But if you are an expert user, you have more options to do more detailed search. Like you can refine the search by size, color, types, and so on. And this is an example of exchange mail. If you want to use more settings, you can go to this advanced setting tab. Rule 8 is called aesthetic and minimalist design. You can see more explanations from video here. So when user product visitor website, for example, all unnecessary information competes for the user's limited attentional resources, which could inhibit users' memory retrieval of relevant information. Therefore, the display must be reduced to only the necessary components for the current task. So here are some questions you can ask yourself as an evaluator. Is the user interface design simple and easy to understand? Is the user clear on what all the icons mean and why they are included in the design? If you have a phone on your website, are phones easy to understand and effortless to fill in? This is the gateway of Google search. This is a very good example of minimalist design. It has only the required information to perform the primary task, which is search. Rule 9 is called help user recognize diagnostic and recover from errors. You can again check a video here. User errors. The designers should assume users are unable to understand technical terminologies. Therefore, error message should almost always be explained in plain language to ensure nothing gets lost in translation. So those are some questions you can ask yourself as an evaluator. Is the user presented with error message when adding incorrect information in a phone control? If you have a phone on your website, is the user presented with human readable error message that's offer useful information on how to correct their mistake, how to solve their problem? Is the user presented with polite error message that do not blame the user for the error? So here, this is an online example. If I enter a wrong username and the password, and the error message I got is either the username or the password is incorrect. Here, we are not informing the user if the username is invalid or if the password is wrong. Okay, finally, rule 10 is called help and documentations. Again, video is here. So ideally, we want user to navigate the system without having to refer to a document. However, depending on the type of solution, documentations might be necessary. When users require help, ensure it is easily located, specific to the task at hand, and worded in a way that will guide them through the necessary steps towards the solution to the issue they are facing. So here are some questions again you can ask yourself. Is the user presented with a clear steps guidance to use the product or user survey, user system? Does the user have access to documentations with relevant topics to help reach their goals? Is the user presented with other channels of communication to ensure assistance to reach their goals, and so on? So this is an example with Dropbox. It has a searchable help center and a knowledge base. So this is how you can use an API to extract data from that website, from a certain website. So you can provide any external information that would be useful to user along with the label. Okay, this is from Chrome's extensions. So there is a developer guidance, right? So this quick start guidance is a very good example for documentations. It is well organized, structured, and contains the required information that requires developer Chrome uh, extensions. So here I have attached to a case study for heuristic evaluation. Please make sure you take a look at both of them. Like rule 1, no validation, rule 2, no validation, to rule 10. This is the second case. So if you choose to do a usability analysis report, be sure you know the difference from what you should do and the case study here. The case study here starts from heuristics, from rules, but you should start with user tasks. So you don't need to evaluate the website you select rule by rule. You should evaluate them from the user task you design. So, which means if you didn't find okay, rule 1, rule 2 is met or violate, that's okay. As long as the user task you designed do not cover those rules. Besides heuristic evaluation, there are many other usability inspection methods with or without users. The cognitive walkthrough is a usability evaluation method in which one or more evaluators work through a series of tasks and ask a set of questions from the perspective of the user. Here is a procedure of a cognitive walkthrough. First, define the users of the product, then determine what user tasks are most appropriate for the walkthrough. Assemble a group of evaluators, experts, develop the ground rule for the walkthrough, and finally work through each task for the perspective of the typical users. Those are some questions evaluators could ask themselves from the perspective of users, such as will the user try to achieve the right outcome with this product, with this application software? Will the user notice that the correct action is available to them? Will the user associate the correct action with the outcome they expect to achieve? If the correct action is performed, will the user see that progress is being made towards their intended outcome? The evaluators attempt to come up with a success story for each user task. If he or she cannot come up with one, he or she instead creates a failure story and evaluates why the user might not be able to accomplish the user task based on this product. These insights are then used to improve the usability of that product. All the evaluators finally will get together to develop a shared understanding of the identified strengths and weakness of a certain product. There are several advantages and disadvantages of cognitive walkthrough as a usability evaluation method. Advantages include it can be done without first-hand access to users. Also, unlike some other usability inspection methods, cognitive walkthrough takes explicit account of the user's task. This advantage includes, for example, the value of the data is limited by the skill set of the evaluators. Also, cognitive walkthrough tends to uh, generate a relatively narrow analysis that focus on the words and graphics used on the screen. Cognitive walkthrough and heuristic evaluation, they have some similarities. They both focus more on product evaluation. Also, they both performed by UX usability analysis experts, professionals with experience. But they also have some differences. Cognitive walkthrough has cognitive walkthrough evaluators. They have specific tasks to perform, and they focus on finding real problems of the product. Instead, heuristic evaluation, those evaluators have list of rules, list of heuristic they will refer to look for problems of the product, and they focus on finding potential problems instead of real problems because when they are doing heuristic analysis, it's highly likely the product is still unpublished. Other usability testing inspection methods with users include interviews, surveys, sync-alouds, paired user testing, and concurrent retrospective probing. You will see more details in the following slides. Slide 47 to 49 introduce three types of interview methods: focused group, individual interview, and contextual interviews. Those three interview methods shared lots of similarities, such as they should be employed as an input early in the design process. They require appropriate selection of participants. The major advantage of those interview methods is a participant's interviewee's unique point of view can be explored in detail. However, the output of those interviews is almost exclusively non-statistical, so it is critical that reports of interviews are carefully analyzed by experienced experts. Focus group is a moderated discussion that typically involves 5 to 10 participants at the same time. Through a focus group, you can learn about users' attitude, concerns, and issues they feel about a product. Several things you should remember, you should pay attention to when you want to conduct a focus group interview. Like, you need to identify proper people to speak with, and probably you should consider dividing those people into several groups according to, for example, their gender, their technical skill level, and so on. So comparing to individual interview, focus group interviews relies more on your skill set, because you need to modify discussions with 5 to 10 people. So you should not allow one interviewee to speak too much, so he or she's opinion may dominate the whole discussion, and then you cannot gather attitude concerns that's reported by other interviewees. Contextual interview combined user observations with interview. So during these interviews, researchers watch and listen as user work in the user's own environment. Um, I recommend this method, contextual interview, if other conditions allowed, because it can offer two-phrase, two-way communication. You could generate questions during observation first, and then let the interviewee explain later why you do this, why they do this, why they do that, what are their concerns, what are the issues they have when they were using a certain product or system. Okay, surveys. Surveys are an easier way to gather a large amount of information about users with minimum time spent. A researcher can create a survey using tools such as SurveyMonkey or Google Forms, send the survey out, and receive hundreds of responses in just a minute. A survey can help you accumulate quantitative data about overall user satisfaction or collect quantitative data to support qualitative research findings, for example, draw from interviews. When to use surveys? Surveys are usually used when a design team can only gain remote access to users of a site of a product, or is seeking a larger sample size than can be realistically achieved through direct content, or want to collect quantitative data to support qualitative research findings. One thing you need to remember is you cannot study user behavior directly with surveys. If you want to study how your users behave or what usability problems they face during an interaction with your product, you should consider to use other research methods at first, such as contextual interviews. Um, Creating a survey looks like a quicker and easier task, just like the survey you received before. But in reality, it is not the case. A significant amount of time should be devoted to preparing surveys. Usually, it is a good example to design survey questions based on findings from interviews. Think aloud testing is a direct observation method for user testing that involves asking users to think out loud as they are performing a task. Users are asked to say whatever they are looking at, thinking, doing, and feeling at each moment. This method is especially helpful for determining users' expectations and identifying what aspects of a system are confusing. The goal is to encourage participants to keep a running stream of consensus as they work. Here is a procedure of Think Aloud's testing method. First, provide the test users with a product to be tested and a set of tasks to perform, and then ask them to perform those tasks using the product and explain what they are thinking about while working with the product's interface. Uh, the Think Aloud testing method has several advantages. First is it is useful to help designers to understand participants' thoughts as they occur and as they attempt to work through issues they encounter. This method could also help to gather real-time feedback and emotional response. And it is not expensive. No special equipment is needed. You simply sit next to a user and take notes as he or she talks. This method is also robust. Most people are actually, I would say, pool facilitators and do not run the study exactly according to the proper methodology. However, unless you bias your users by putting words into their mouths, you will still get reasonably good findings by thinking about testing, even from a poorly run case. Of course, the think aloud testing has several disadvantages. The first is it creates an, how to say, nature situation, because most people do not just sit and talk to themselves all day. So it is little bit strange. Also, it can affect the common usability metrics such as accuracy and time on tasks. Paired user testing is carried out with multiple participants, usually in pairs, simultaneously. The two participants work together to complete the scenarios asked of them. An open and free dialogue between participants is encouraged instead of the think aloud dialogue. There are several situations that paired user testing is a good choice. First is when conducting usability testing tests with young children, as they could feel more comfortable discussing their experience with one another. The conversations between the children and the language they use to describe a product or system or service can provide better insights than you may have gathered otherwise. Also, paired user testing could be useful when testing serves or products that are multiple user focused in order to understand the experience from different viewpoints. For example, when testing multiplayer games, chatting serves, social network serves, and so on. You can also use paired user testing when scenarios that you initially think of as being complete by a single user may actually involve or be heavily influenced by multiple users. For example, interacting with a TV interface has a primary user, the person with the remote control, but may also have multiple secondary users, such as the other people in the household who all take part in the decision making of what to watch next. Paired user testing has several advantages. First is participants can feel more at ease, helping them relax and talk more comfortably. This is particularly relevant when testing with people that know each other well, such as friends, siblings, partners, family members, and share interest uh, that relates to the experience you are researching. This can be really effective when testing with, as already mentioned, young children or conducting research on more sensitive topic. Also, fewer action is required from the moderators, enabling them to remain neutral. So, participants are likely to expose more in the conversation between each other than they do with a more traditional think aloud approach. For example, by listening to the problem solving conversations between the participants, it becomes clear where the issues are without requiring probing. You are likely to identify more usability issues when testing in pairs, enable, enabling you to identify more usability issues in a shortened time frame. Um, Disadvantage of paired user testing include first, with two people you have more to observe, of course, more data to capture and therefore potentially more to miss. Note taking in paired sessions requires more effort and skills from the moderators. It strengthens the case for using a separate note taker. Also, similar to the limitation of focused group, you may have one participant dominating the session, which can mean you miss the inputs and insights from the second participant. And participants cooperating with one another can feed off each other's idea and observations. They may both achieve more than they would do individually. This can result in false positives. Finally, you may be creating a more nature setting, especially if the two participants do not know each other. This may limit their response or even cause they to change their behavior. You need to ensure that you fully understand the context of use of the product or service. If it's generally used by multiple users, then pill testing is valid. If this is not the case yearly, then individual user testing sections are recommended. Concurrent and retrospective probing are both usability testing methods with users, but requiring more engagement between moderators and participants, comparing to think-aloud testing and paired user testing. Concurrent probing (CP) requires that as participants work on tasks, when they say something interesting or doing something unique, the moderator asks follow-up questions directly. Instead, retrospective probing (RP) requires waiting until the section is complete and then asking questions about the participants' thoughts and actions. I personally tend to use a combination of concurrent think aloud with retrospective probing. To do that, you can first introduce test participants to the context of the product and the list of tasks you'd like them to perform. They are asked to think out loud as they work through those tasks. Your role as a moderator is to avoid um, interrupting them or avoid offering suggestions even when they struggle, as well as to note down any real time feedback and emotional response. After the test is finished, you can go back to your notes and ask participants for their feedback based on your observations. Finally, user task scenarios. Here, task scenarios is the action that you ask the participant to take on the test interface, to take on the product that serves the system. There are several things you should pay attention to when you are designing task scenario. First is the task should be realistic because if a user can identify with the situation, they are more likely to be engaged. For example, if your participant is a father of two girls, do not ask him to buy gifts for two boys. The more realistic a task is, the better of the result. Also, you should avoid providing suggestions. You cannot really test whether your product works well or not if you are helping your participants. Finally, your task, your task scenario should be specific. The subject should not ask you, the moderator, for clarifications of what you want them to do. Make sure you have the correct outcome for a certain task. Slides 55 and 56 show lists of task scenario for two products. First is Airbnb, second is Uber Eats. For example, those are some task scenarios you can use to test Airbnb, like booking a private room, booking an experience, retrieving the address from a reservation, see upcoming events for a city, request a refund, messaging a host, listing a property, containing customer support, and so on. And for Uber Eats, tasks could be placing an order, reordering a past order, canceling an order, changing your address, adding a new payment method, viewing the status of an order, contacting the result, contacting customer support, and so on. So you can use those tasks as reference for your usability analysis report if you choose to do this assignment. Okay, That's all for week 6 usability analysis. Thank you. Okay, from here I will show you how to upload your local copy of personal website to your online space. You should already receive my email including your username and password. If you haven't received it, please let me know as soon as possible by email. I'm not sure how many of you have already tested your VPN connection, but since this is a VPN-enabled course, you should be able to connect to the VPN. First step, show in a connection window. Okay, click connect, and the username is your MyBama ID. The first password is your MyBama password. And for the second password, you have 3 options. You can just type push, P-U-S-H, and then you will receive a notification from Do Mobile application, just confirm it. Or you can type phone, and then you will receive a phone call. Or you can just enter the password from Do application. Let me just type push. Okay, let me confirm the login request. Okay, now I have been connected to the UAVPN, and the second step is to use FileZilla. So open FileZilla and go to File Site Management. And okay, so I have the site here. Let me just delete it. Okay, click New Site here. And for the protocol, set it as SFTP. The host name is I think is ls. Yeah, ls500.ua.edu. I will show this slide with you later. And port 22, log type, ask for password, and the username here is the username you received from email. For myself, it's ls500 my MyBama ID. And then click connect, and the pop-up window will ask for the password, and then enter the password you received from email, no space. Okay, you can see status connection successful. Okay, so go to the root directory and then click the SRV, click the www, or you can just enter \srv \www and then find the folder with your username. So for me, it's ls500 hrfu4. Okay, this is where you should upload your local copy. So this window shows where your local copy is. This window shows where your online space is. So let me find my local copy is this folder, public HTML, and I have index.html page my css.css and the image folder. So I can right click, upload, right click, upload, and upload. Okay, that's all. So if you want to check if your upload is successful, you can use this file path. HTTP, your username, ls500verb.ua.edu. For me, it will be HTTP ls500 ls500verb.ua.edu. Okay, it's there. So this link only works if you name your index page as index.html. If you use like other name for your index page, then you will need to list it after http your username ls500 verb.ua.edu. So I don't recommend you to do this, but if you want, you can. Yeah, this is what you should do to label your file path. Okay, so this video is just for you as a reference. So if you cannot follow, if you don't understand some steps, that's okay. I will show you how to do that in our next section. So we will need to meet in our next section. Okay, that's all. Thank you.